Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise Podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Aldrich. Alongside me is my co-host, Andrew Quinn, Seamus Zarlingo, and Rob Haytayan. So, welcome back, episode 42, presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. Now, before I get into what episode 42 means, I think many of you Celtics fans should know. I do have to say, everyone make sure to hit up the DMs over on Instagram, Celtics Nation Rise, or hit me up in the comments. Again, we are doing the fan series where that's going to start maybe this week. We're figuring out. The trailer will be out soon. So everyone DM me if you guys want to come on here, if you're a Celtics super fan, and share your story. But I think everyone knows what 42 means, but we have some news. Horford still intends on playing for the Celtics in what would be his 19th year during the 25-26 season. And I mean, Seamus, you put the graphic there, and it's amazing. The Al Horford episode. I mean, come on, you can't go wrong with Al Horford episode 42. Just a quick shout out. I can't believe we're this far right now, and it's crazy because episode 1 was actually about Lonnie Walker. Now, look, we're all the way up to Al Horford episode. So isn't that funny how the cards turn? But really quick, I want to give you guys the opportunity before we start the program. Initial thoughts. How have you guys felt with this off season so far? Obviously, not much going on right now, but how have you felt? I feel like for me personally, I've calmed down a lot more. I've accepted that the Celtics are out. I'm not as heartbroken as I was before. I still am. Don't get me wrong, and it makes me so mad that the Knicks are in there, but about to get tossed by Indy, who knows? But I will say that, and I've kind of calmed down a little bit. I'm down to earth, and I'm accepting what the Celtics can do next offseason, and I have a little excitement involved in me. But what are your guys' initial thoughts? We'll start off with Andrew.
Yeah, I think, not much has gone on yet, and there's a lot of, questions in the air. Is Jaylen Brown, are we gonna just hammer down on Jaylen Brown, let him be the main focal point? Is Drew Holiday gonna kind of be in trade discussions, which he is? What are we gonna do with Porzingis, right? It's kind of up in the air, and it's tough to pinpoint at this moment. But I guess what comes to my mind in the first place is the willingness and the love that these Celtics players have for this organization, and the want to kind of stick around and stay part of this team. So who knows? Maybe, there's a couple guys that are getting a little older. Obviously, Al Horford wants to stick around. Like, could you see like potential pay cuts because they want to stay a part of this team and continue this run and continue this camaraderie that they have, this chemistry that they have? Drew Holiday wants to obviously stick around. So, and Jaylen Brown, we're going to talk about him later, but he wants to stick around. He loves the Boston community. He calls it home. So it's like, it's nice to see that despite this moment of confusion and frustrations, considering how the season ended, there's still a want for people to stick around and stay within the organization.
I love that. Seamus, what about you?
I think the Knicks losing has easily made this Celtics offseason a lot better. I mean, I think the Knicks, like I was looking at it last night going, this is what we were waiting for, right? The Knicks down 3-1 in any series. It's like the Pistons series, we were waiting for it. The Celtics series, we're waiting for it. Finally, the Pacers are actually getting it done against the Knicks. It's baffling. I know we're supposed to be talking about the Celtics, but it's baffling seeing what the Knicks have on their roster and how far they still are in the Eastern Conference playoffs right now and in the NBA playoffs. But I will say the Knicks losing to the Pacers definitely makes the offseason and the Celtics run feel a little bit better. Because I was saying this too last night. I was going, if the Knicks advance to the finals or even win the finals, either one of those, right? It just looks terrible from a Celtics perspective, knowing all you had to do was beat the Knicks in order to make the finals or even win the finals. Because say if the Knicks go on and win the finals against the Thunder, which they're down 3-1, there's still a possibility. But if they go on to win the finals against the Thunder, which I feel is obviously very highly unlikely at this point in time, it's as if it's like, man, we really threw away an opportunity at a championship. We had 20-point leads in games 1 and 2 at home. We could have closed that series out. We could have been up 3-0. The Celtics could have been in that Eastern Conference Finals series. So the Knicks losing makes the offseason feel a little bit better, but it's still like it's shocking. Like we've been done for 2 weeks now, a week and a half, and this is a time of the year I'm looking back at all these great memories on. So this is being recorded on May 28th, but yesterday, May 27th, and I'm sure we have memories from May 28th as well, that we could somehow mine from history. But May 27th, notable date, 7 years ago yesterday, Jason Tatum dunks all over LeBron James. The Celtics
Yeah.
inexcusably score 79 points in Game 7 of the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals and miss out on an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals. You have that moment on May 27th. You have the Derek White game winner on May 27th. 1 year ago yesterday, the Boston Celtics won Game 4 against the Indiana Pacers and advanced on to the NBA Finals. And it was a little bit of a. I look at the Pacers this season, and some kudos to the Pacers real quick, because at the beginning of the season and halfway through the season, we thought, this season probably isn't going to end as well as it did last year for the Pacers in the conference finals. Yet the Pacers, they're 1 win away from the NBA Finals, and last night they played a Game 4 at their home where they had an opportunity to go up 3-1. They obviously did on the New York Knicks. And you think about a year ago yesterday, the Indiana Pacers were getting swept on their home floor to the Boston Celtics, who are advancing on to the NBA Finals. So the whole point is here, you just have all these Celtics memories from May 27th and this week of conference finals memories and various different moments in Celtics history that we know about as of late, particularly late in the playoffs. And it's like, man, we've been done. The Celtics have been done for now a week and a half. And yet you look at all these other years, we have memories from this week. This week is usually a pretty good week for the Celtics, playing in the conference finals, achieving those good memories to put out there for everybody. And it's definitely still shocking where the Celtics are at. We went from title hunting 2 weeks ago to Tatum's out. We have no idea what's happening with the roster. We have no idea what the direction of the team is. And that still remains to this day. I mean, we're a week and a half into the offseason, and nothing really seems evident up to this point of what's going to happen. We've had little tidbits of information here and there that we'll get into today, but nothing concrete on what the direction will actually be, what the Celtics direction will actually be this summer. And I just think from that standpoint, I mean, we certainly, Griffin, you said it. We have a fun summer on the way. We have a fun off season on the way. We probably, I'm not going to say, the Celtics are going to make the most, likable moves in the world per se, right? Like I don't know if people will be down with every single move the Celtics make this summer, because let's face it, they'll be making moves partially based on salary numbers and not adding, like, they're going to want to add talent to the roster, Brad Stevens in the front office, but it's also going to be within the lens of cutting salary from the salary sheets. And I just think from that perspective, you're like, this is one of the most interesting Celtics off seasons we've had since maybe 2019, when the 2018-19 season went awry. That entire team breaks up, and the Celtics, they totally, like, at that point in time, the Celtics roster was completely flipped around. The keys were given to Brown and Tatum, and then from there on out, obviously the Celtics formed a new history tangent, aside from what we saw with Kyrie Irving. So I think the same thing's going to happen here. Kristaps, Drew Holiday, we don't know if they're going to be on the roster next season. They were obviously the big additions last season who brought the Celtics over the hump to a championship, but now just very unclear what the Celtics do. There's a scenario where the Celtics go full throttle and pay the full luxury tax, pay over the second apron. They don't care. We don't know what new ownership's going to do. Or there's also a scenario where the Celtics completely tear it down, and we have no idea what this roster. We don't see a familiarity within this roster next season. So a lot of directions this offseason could go, and at this point in time, it's still shocking that we're here and not making more memories in the conference finals right now, like the Indiana Pacers.
I agree. But Rob, welcome back to the show. I mean,
Right.
I was looking, the last time we had you on the show was before we were even with Celtics Talk Weekly. So I wanted to give a thank you to Rob
I
too.
was scouting.
I know. So now we're here, like, in the flesh. Look at the graphics. Seamus is an animal with that. So welcome.
You
Rob,
guys have been killing it over here. I couldn't not come on. Well, first of all, it sucks that the Celtics aren't in the playoffs. Seamus, I agree. It's weird we're so accustomed. We talked about it on the last Celtics Talk Weekly show. We're so accustomed playing late into May because we have been for the past 3 years, and the COVID year played late into May anyway in that first round. So it's like we're in a spot we haven't really been in since 2019. So it's been unusual. It's been weird. I won't lie. I haven't been paying too much attention to the OKC. I've kind of tapped out of that series post game 3. I saw the ending of game 4, and then I've been all in on the Pacers-Knicks series just because, again, those Pacers is a team I picked, and those Knicks are a team I'm kind of looking to see lose. So kind of there. But in terms of the Celtics offseason, I'm a little conflicted right now because you got conflicting reports. You got Shams coming out yesterday talking about all these moves, whatever, and then you got Stevens going up on his presser saying, don't expect anything big on draft night. But I actually think draft night, guys, tells us everything we need to know about the Celtics' direction. If they trade up, I think they're going to start going youthful with this roster. Staying put, I think they're maybe retain the core. Trading back, I think they're maybe getting more assets. So I do think draft night is when this offseason will start, and I think it's going to be a lot of speculation up until that point. But it is conflicting because you have all these reports saying we got to shed roster, but then we get the $1 billion investment. So it's really no one knows where this direction in Brad Stevens is going to take this. So I'm conflicted. I'm confused. I have my own personal direction I want to see. But I do think in terms of the offseason, the only thing for me that matters right now is seeing Jason Tatum back on the court. I want to see that first training video of him getting shots up, of him going to work. So until then, we'll have to wait and see. Again, draft night's kind of my target. Like, that's when everything starts for us. But, yeah, very conflicted because there's reports coming in and out that kind of conflict each other.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I feel it's a very confusing off season to say the least because we're not going to know what direction this goes until draft night, like you said, Rob.
Right.
And I feel like, in addition to what Seamus said, I feel like it hurts. Like, it still definitely stings that we could have been there. And when you see at the end of the day other teams celebrating about the finals, it's like, wow, we could have been like that again. But I think winning, 18 last year definitely softens the blow. I think that was definitely a big one where we're not as hurt, but it's still pain, But I do gotta say this. I just want to mention this. So we were actually at Mohegan Sun's for my sister's boyfriend's birthday, and we ran on. I can't even talk for a second, but that's home of the Connecticut Suns. I had to get them.
James, do they have a win this season yet, Griffin? Do they have a win?
I got
our closest WNBA team.
I think they just lost to the Dallas Wings last night.
So
I think that's the case.
Oh, speaking of the Dallas Wings,
we met Paige Beckers.
Hey, there it is.
That's my sister's boyfriend's brother, and you had to include that. So that was fun. She's from Connecticut.
I got this too. We don't have the picture, but I was at the Celtics versus Mavericks game last year, and I ran into her as well.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's too funny.
Oh, we'll have to pull that up. We're gonna have to maybe do an Instagram story when Rob and Griffin meet Paige Beckers. Yeah, but that was fun. But we're getting into the time where there was another person on this program who met a notable name. And should we pull up his picture himself? And Andrew, you want to, give a little shout out to what you do and explain this picture and what happened?
No, yeah, just have a photographer help interview photos, and I was fortunate to find that the 741 Performance was holding an event for Jaylen Brown. Or he was holding the event himself, and he actually pulled up. It was a great experience, and Jaylen Brown is, he's a great person. He's very personable. He gave everyone during the pop-up shop like a lot of time. I mean, at times he's talking to people for like 5 minutes. When they're in the line, like actually having genuine conversations and expressing his appreciation for the support that Celtics Nation has provided, and it was just a really fun experience to be a part of. And just Celtics Nation, they came together at that moment, even when they just lost a playoff game, even when there's kind of some frustrations. It just shows that it's very strong right now, and Jaylen Brown is just he's a good dude, honestly. Like to put it like that, he is a down to earth good dude, and he was at I think it was apparently, I don't know the source exactly. It might have been that Noah with a CLNS. He was saying that they're asking like the children questions about like what their favorite subjects are and like all these different things. Like it's really cool to see. He likes to keep it more than just basketball and put on for Boston itself. So it was cool to be a part of it, and it's just cool that he cares so deeply about the city.
Yeah, and I gotta pull this up for you, Andrew, too, if you want to read
Go
that.
off of that. Yeah. He said, "Boston, my home. I've been here for 10 years of my life. Even though sometimes online or in the media, there's a lot of noise when you get into the community. There's a lot of love and genuine connections I get to see, and I get to see that today." That was from NBC 10 Boston. So, yeah, man. I mean, he had a great experience, and he really showed out for Boston and the Celtics that day.
Was there a lot of people there? It looked like it was that big.
It wasn't crazy big. Like, I mean, me and my dad, like, so I was taking photos originally. So me and my dad, we didn't even think about it. Like, we were just on the side. We didn't actually hop in the line. So we ended up later towards the event hopping in the line, and it actually moved pretty quickly. So there wasn't a crazy amount of people because I think they posted like that Jaylen Brown was going to come to the event pretty late, like into the event, or knowing that the event was happening. So there wasn't a crazy amount of people, and people were continually like showing up and kind of walking by through the street and just being like, "No way, it's Jaylen Brown! Like, what's this about?" Kind of being inquisitive. I know GRD squad and Causeway, K-Man Causeway, and all of them. They pulled up. They actually stayed the night, or like they like stayed in the line, like waiting for the event, because there was 10 free shoes that they were giving away for like the white noise pair. So like they actually stayed in the line and waited for the event. But no, there was a lot of buzz around it. It was a good environment. I mean, it was a cool experience, and it was definitely something that you don't necessarily expect from a superstar like Jaylen Brown, right? Like sometimes you think they're untouchable, but it was definitely, once again, just an awesome experience, and kudos for Jaylen Brown for doing that.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I feel like he is super smart, him with Bill 9 and everything. And I have to say, Andrew sent me the pictures, and I'm freaking out. I'm at like work during my break. I see those, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, that's so sick. I know, like you guys said, you guys are all locked into the series going on, and I'm locked into minor league baseball. So let's get it. Go see dogs. But yeah,
you were repping your Sea Dogs and the Paige Beckers.
I was
every time.
I think
I respect the hustle, Griffin.
Here it is.
The Sea Dogs right there, always repping. That's why I'm like, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I'm wearing some Boston merch today because I've been wearing the Sea Dogs everywhere. So it's. You'll catch me either in Boston merch or you'll catch me in Sea Dogs merch. I think that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So
not bad.
But it's time to get into what this podcast is truly about. Seamus, this is your segment. There's been some trade rumors. I think that's really, we've had a lot of fun with the podcast, and we will obviously again with the fan series. But before draft night and this offseason really kickstarts, all we have right now is rumors. But Seamus, if you wanted to break down those rumors, and we'll all give you our thoughts on them, let's get it started, Seamus.
Well, let's start talking about Jaylen Brown, since we're already on that subject, because Jaylen Brown, we all know he tore his meniscus at the end of the regular season and played through a torn meniscus in the NBA playoffs. That much we knew last week coming off the Knicks series, that Eastern Conference semifinal series. We knew about Jaylen Brown's knee. However, we still have no idea what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown's knee in regard to Jaylen Brown having surgery or not having surgery and what the timetable actually is for Jaylen Brown's return in the future. And we have a couple of rumors here today from Hoops Hype, courtesy of Hoops Hype here. Surgery's still an option for Jaylen Brown's torn meniscus. On Saturday, Jaylen Brown told Celtics blog that surgery to repair that torn meniscus remains on the table. And this is what Jaylen Brown said. I got a lot of doctors. I got a lot of doctors I got to get evaluated with. See the potential for surgery versus no surgery. Wait to speak to the Celtics organization, he said. So right there, to me, Jaylen Brown, obviously, you see this quote on here, and furthermore, he said this. For now, it's just the rest and recovery. I'm taking a step back from a long season mentally. It was a lot of stuff going on. And Jaylen Brown, you see in this quote right here, still not certain on what the direction will be with his knee. Obviously, Jaylen Brown saying here he has a lot of doctors to get evaluated with, see the potential for surgery versus no surgery, which means we thought, oh, Jaylen Brown, he's getting evaluated a week after we heard the news about the torn meniscus. The secondary storyline within the fact that Jaylen Brown suffered a torn meniscus was Jaylen Brown would be reevaluated in the week upcoming from that report. And so far, now we're about a week and a half removed from that report, week and a half removed from hearing about Jaylen Brown's torn meniscus, and it still seems as if Jaylen Brown has not seen doctors, has not talked to the organization, has not established a direction on what exactly he's going to do with his torn meniscus, which we can talk about whether or not that is concerning here with the panel here in a second. But Jaylen Brown, an update on this torn meniscus situation, doesn't sound like much has happened yet
Yeah.
on the Jaylen Brown front when it comes to dealing with his injury. Maybe concerning, maybe not. But Jaylen Brown, this is ultimately not concerning here because Jaylen Brown, we all know there's been some trade rumors surrounding Jaylen Brown, not necessarily trade rumors from reputable sources, but just from people talking, trade speculation, I will say, not rumors, just speculation from fans thinking, oh, could Jaylen Brown be moved this summer? Is it a possibility? A lot of those conversations have gone back and forth either way. But Jaylen Brown here this year, for the very first time, Jaylen Brown is leaning towards spending most of his offseason in the city he's called home since he was 19, and that city being Boston. And here's what Jaylen Brown said: I'm in the community a lot, but I'm leaning toward being even more in the community. Brown said, I'm really just trying to touch this community and be around, be available for the city of Boston. In July, the Celtic Star is once again hosting the Bridge program at MIT, a multi day educational and leadership initiative for Black and Brown youth from 8th to 12th grade. At Bridge, Brown spends all day, every day with the students who study a range of topics from community organizing to artificial intelligence. So this report right here, Jaylen Brown staying in Boston this offseason as far as Jaylen Brown actually spending time and living in Boston. When it comes to Jaylen Brown being on the roster, we don't know. We can obviously speculate positively on that. A lot of people think that Jaylen Brown is going to stay around, but there has been a lot of conversation as well about the Celtics potentially moving Jaylen Brown. Although some people obviously out there find that to be a ludicrous idea, some other folks find that to be viable. But regardless of all the roster talk and the transactional talk, Jaylen Brown staying in Boston this offseason. So a good report there from Jaylen Brown, staying in Boston, is going to be around the area in the community. Andrew, there's going to be more opportunities for you to go, take some photos of Jaylen Brown, meet up with Jaylen Brown. Maybe we can get a JB interview here on Celtics
Never
Talk
know,
Weekly. You
man.
never
You
know.
never
That
know.
would be a big hitter. But Jaylen Brown, there's one good report in there, and then there's one maybe concerning report about his knee. The report about his knee, I wouldn't call it wildly concerning because we've seen the torn meniscus in the past. The conversation with the torn meniscus, and that's what we're kind of having the conversation with Jaylen Brown right now, is when somebody tears their meniscus, do they get surgery or do they not? We saw this happen with Daniel Tice years ago in 2018. We saw this happen with Robert Williams back in 2022. In a position where a player has a torn meniscus, the typical roads are a player gets surgery, and that's supposed to be a shorter term fix, but could have longer term ramifications for that player's health later on down the line. Or the player doesn't have surgery, it takes longer to heal in the initial moment, but might actually be better for a player in the long term and their knees health. So Jaylen Brown, that's the part about the story where I'm like, that's not too concerning, because we could see a route where Jaylen Brown doesn't have surgery, and not having surgery early on doesn't necessarily do anything for the meniscus. But so saying that, it's like, for everybody who's concerned about, oh, Jaylen Brown's not doing anything with his knee yet, what's going on? I would say the more concerning part is just the fact that more conversations haven't been had about the direction of where that injury is going to go, or how they're going to manage that injury. The
Can I say
organization,
something?
team doctors, surgeons, and Jaylen Brown. I would say from that standpoint, it's a little bit concerning knowing they haven't talked yet. But at the same time, there's a possibility that Jaylen Brown doesn't even have surgery, and that's just how this all goes about. So there's two sides of that, but I'll give that perspective out on Jaylen Brown just to start off here. But go ahead, Griffin.
One thing that concerns me is we might not have a water training video of Jaylen Brown if he's going to be in Boston a lot. I mean,
No, we might have more. We might have more though.
he might.
He's got to get that knee right.
All right. Is there any big pools in Boston that we're going to see him at? Because
Oh, there's plenty.
I'm
confused about the basketball underwater part.
Yeah, that
What's
one
he-
is
he
that.
dribble that, or
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
Jeez. I look forward to those in the off season. I feel like it's been 2 seasons now in a row, 2 off seasons where he's getting that water training in. But like what Seamus said though, it's usually you see him, in different countries and stuff, really enjoying his off season. But I think really him doing Celtic City, that documentary, and being really a main face for this main Celtics team, I think that was kind of a big, leadership thing. He realized the importance of Bill Russell and all the Celtics legends and how much they did in the community. And I think that was really a wake-up call for him, and be like, okay, well, instead of spending my off season doing stuff that benefit me and making me have a fun off season, why these guys are so great is because the impact they had in the community. And I think that's what he's realizing. And he's like, wow, I'm doing this too. And you saw him even on starting 5 too. So maybe him just talking about it so much, he's like, wow, I really need to do more in the community. I don't know your guys' thoughts on that, though.
Well, I also think that this is such an unusual circumstance for Jaylen Brown, where Jason Tatum's most likely going to miss the entirety of next season. So not only does Jaylen Brown's community, right, off the court implications, but this is a guy that's going to take it to another level next year, right? I mean, this is now the face of the Boston Celtics for the next season. And if I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I gotta take it to, right. I'm an all NBA third guy, right? I'm an all-star kind of right at this point, but I gotta take it to MVP level, right? If the Celtics,
Right.
and I want to take this community in this team and this organization to the mountaintop again, right? I got to be that guy for 82 games and then some. And I think from Jaylen Brown coming off that season he kind of just had, it was bumpy, right? He got hurt. He really couldn't find his rhythm in and out of the lineup. If I'm Jaylen Brown, you got to think like, all right, can I afford to, spend a whole month in Paris or in Italy and hopping around, like, or if I want to get to the level I need to get to, is it going to require an off season of really, taking care of my body, pushing it, staying within my system, getting like, eliminating that coming back to Boston, getting back into routine, right, level of the off season, right? When it's early August, you got training camp in about a month and you kind of come home and you get going, kind of eliminating that. So, who's to say he's not going to take some vacation time, because everybody needs some vacation time. But for me, I look at it and I think he's seeing the implications on what could transpire next year on the court, right? Seamus, you talked about that meniscus. You got to handle that properly first. But for JB, you got to take it to another level, man. Like, you're the guy right now. And I think he's going to, but I see that him staying in Boston is a sign to me that he's looking to ramp this thing up. He's looking to take his game to another level, right? His 10th season is kind of the official entered peak stage of your career. I'm looking at JB and I think he's trying to take this thing up a level.
I would
Yeah, I'm right-
100% agree with that. But sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
No, I'm right there with you. I agree as well. I'm right there with Rob. Like, you can debate as much as you want, Tatum, Brown. Like, what's the, who's leading? I mean, I think they're both leading, but you can debate all you want. But now that Tam's injured, it's the Celtics is in the hands of Jaylen Brown. Like he is the face, like you said, he's the face, and his actions determine the Celtics' success. What if he's going to Paris? Maybe the rest of the team isn't, is doing their thing. Like he's the leader now, and he sets the standard. If he hasn't been already, there's an even higher level of need for him to set that standard. So to see that Brown is really diving into it and showing he cares about the community, showing that he's doing everything he can to get that meniscus. It's a positive for the Celtics organization, but it also shows kind of maybe it's Jaylen Brown being like, hey, I want to stick around. Like I want to be part of this team, and I'm gonna show Brad Stevens, and I'm gonna show the Celtics Nation, and I'm gonna show, Bill Chisholm and all these higher ups, like, keep me around, man. You're not gonna regret it. And to show kind of his action and to show that his actions speak louder than his words and all that.
Yeah, and I think to add on to this too is just not only Jaylen Brown, but I think for obviously a lot of people in the Celtics organization, this offseason is going to go a lot differently than off seasons of the past, especially last offseason. I mean, last offseason, it just felt like a party where it was, we won the championship and everybody's going all across the world. The trophy's going everywhere. Everybody's partying. And I thought coming back into the season when we saw the team in Abu Dhabi, I was like, I feel like this team is on average gained about 10 pounds this offseason. Drinking the Michelob
Agreed.
Ultras, going out all night. Like last offseason was a party. Like everybody was their offseason to chill, relax, and party. We just won the championship. The Celtics did last season, going into last offseason. And there weren't many moves to be made. The two moves we saw, O'Shea Brissett, he declined his player option last year, confusingly so, and then Svi Mykhailiuk moved on, and then the Celtics, of course, replaced him with Baylor Shireman and who else did we conjure up last offseason in the draft? I don't even remember at this point in time.
Anton Watson, but he was.
We had Baylor
turned into
Shireman,
something else.
Anton Watson, and I guess we left that other roster spot open for Torrey Craig later on. I guess that's what we did. But regardless, so last offseason there weren't many moves to be made when it came to the Celtics. But this offseason, obviously just talking about the moves in general, there are going to be a lot of moves on the horizon potentially for the Celtics, but just in terms of the health too. The Celtics, they're not very healthy going into this offseason as they were last offseason. Obviously, the one player we looked at last year going into the offseason thinking, okay, he's got some rehab in front of him, it was Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis, he was the player in which was injured going into the offseason last year after the finals. And this season, you have Jason Tatum. He is going to be rehabbing an Achilles injury. We probably won't even see Jason Tatum next season, likely. So, I mean, people are throwing around rumors when it comes to Jason Tatum, like, oh, could he be back? Could he be back in February? Could he be back at this time? Could he be back at that time? I don't really see it at this point in time that Jason Tatum will be back next season. However, regardless, Jason Tatum will be the one rehabbing that injury, which right now I'm trying to find. I don't know, who do we add to the roster from last season? Why am I so bothered by this right now? We added Baylor Shireman, we added Torrey Craig, but that was it.
They added Samuel Adams. Too many Derek White pale ales.
I know.
No, that's what it was. I gave Michelob Ultra a shout out but Michelob Ultra, they get plenty of shout outs on court. But yeah, I for some reason I feel like we added a second player last offseason. But regardless, away from that, minute detail. The whole point is here, the roster going into next season, there's going to be some players on the Celtics roster that are not 100% healthy going into next season, and Jaylen Brown included. Jaylen Brown, meniscus tear. This is where the offseason, I think, is just going to be so different from what we saw last season. Last season, it was a party. Guys were healthy. I mean, seriously, it was like the team could enjoy and do whatever they wanted. This season, the Celtics are met with near catastrophic failure at the end of the season. They're met with a Jason Tatum Achilles tear. They're met with a Jaylen Brown torn meniscus. They're met with this mysterious Kristaps illness that, to me, I'm sorry. I feel like he was just tired. Like I'm like, oh, I want to take a direction and make this a story. Like, oh, is Kristaps gonna be? Is he gonna be unhealthy? Is he gonna be ready for Eurobasket? Is this a long-term problem with Kristaps? Who knows? I'm I almost want to turn it into a story like that, but at the same time, I really just take the perspective of Kristaps. He might have just been fatigued out there. I don't know if he actually had a legitimate injury, although we do talk about it like that. But the whole point is the Celtics going into this offseason, regardless of who you look at, you could even look at Drew Holiday, was dealing with a hamstring injury going into that Knicks series, Sam Hauser, the ankle injury. You look at the Celtics roster, and they're very banged up going into this offseason, particularly the two superstars in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And I just think, Rob, you hit the nail on the head there with Jaylen Brown staying in the market for the offseason, which I'm sure it'll go somewhere during the offseason. I mean, when you're you're a $300 million man essentially in Jaylen Brown, if not, your net worth is not right. It's like when you have that amount of money, I expect you to use some travel miles out there, right? And Franco always jokes how the team they love their
Marriott.
They love their hotel points, right? They love their hotel points. I'm sure when you have
maybe he'll go scuba diving and do some beach workouts underneath the water. Maybe he'll do it in the ocean, some dribbling.
He might. Can I quote a Franco quote too? I mean, they love that free breakfast, those nice catered beers. Maybe they love it. They love it.
No, but
who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
I gotta say this though. The underwater. I'm about to just ruin the mood in here. The underwater stuff. Yeah, there you go, Griffin. Pull it up so everybody can see it. So everybody knows what I'm talking about. This is just the goofiest. I'm sorry. This is just the goofiest thing I've like. I'm sorry. I'm looking at like Tommy Heinsohn. Like, what would Tommy Heinsohn say about this? Like, it's like, what is he doing? Right. He's at the bottom of a 12-foot pool dribbling a ball with one weight, and he's got some goggles on, and it's like this is just to me a social media stunt. It's like, what? How is this?
This is hate.
Maybe that's why his meniscus is not feeling too well. Maybe
no, Seamus
on court stuff.
I like doing practical things. Okay, like I'm about the training that's maybe a little bit out there every now and then. Like every now and then, I'm with the training that's a bit out there. Like take your shoes off, go out in the grass, do some yoga, do some stuff like that. Like I'm not totally opposed to some of the weird routines that people could go through in their off seasons to get better at anything, whether it's flexibility, athleticism, strength, whatever it could be. But some of the Jaylen Brown under the pool, like just other workout videos. And like, I remember when Jaylen Brown was a rookie, right? Giving out these videos on his Instagram story. Well, I shouldn't say like Instagram stories. They didn't even exist when he was a rookie. So I guess this was on Instagram just in general. But back then it would just be, oh, Jaylen Brown's throwing a ball against the wall. Oh, Jaylen Brown, he's using some, those cords they're attached to his hip, and he's running back and forth, and it's pulling him back, right? Some of those like the elastic cords. I'm blanking on what they're called right now.
Parachutes.
But he's doing all the normal workouts, right? It's like, oh, a lot of running, a lot of jumping, just in a normal gym setting, right? Like, oh, this is any normal gym. Now it's like he's got this like $1 billion pool of $1 billion facility. Like he's in Santa Monica. Like he's not in Santa Monica. I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. Just using a great place. But regardless, it's like he's always in this nice place, right? He's somewhere worldwide. Just this weird exercise routine going on. And I just, it's kind of the progression of people when they don't have money versus when they have money. It's like, obviously it's going to look a lot different when you are paid versus when you're not paid. As Jaylen Brown in his career, we've seen him, he's been quite the paid man in the NBA. But I just want to say the underwater workouts, I feel like they're all just social media stunts. It's like that to me is not the bulk of Jaylen Brown's workout routine. It's like that is just something he's like, let's go out here and film this. It's like, let's just do a pool workout and film this. And it's like, that is not, to me, that could not be part of his normal routine.
I am here to save Jaylen Brown. Seamus, he is a very intelligent man. And listen, this is something that we might not know. I think more
people can be
Yeah,
intelligent and still do
Yeah.
goofy things though. Like that's
Underwater-
where I'm like,
underwater,
I'm not
tried
gonna give him a pass and leeway and say, oh, he's good because
There's
he's intelligent.
There's intelligence and there's common sense.
But
I'm gonna.
you try. I'm not hating on it. I've never tried it. It might work. You know, like
Well,
you have to admit,
let's.
it might work.
He's sticking around Boston. Maybe he's kind of going to tapping into that Rocky mindset, going back to Philly and getting a little dirt on his hands this year and kind of being a little gritty in the offseason. So we'll see.
But that's what we have to get back to right there. That's what we have to get back to.
But that's a great segue. Like that's what the Celtics kind of stepped away from. They had that, like we said, they had that arrogance. They had that kind of like,
They did.
oh, we're going to. They did. It's not even kind of. They had arrogance, and that's exactly what we're talking about.
Well,
even maybe you go, Rob. Yeah.
So I also, like, you're right. No, they did. Like the Celtics and Bill Simmons, who's quite frankly, I love him, phenomenal from the Ringer.
Like
He kind of saying that all. Yes,
Yeah, he's
right.
been saying
Like
that, yeah.
he's the Godfather almost at this point.
Yeah.
To us at least. But like he was saying all year, like the Celtics, I don't know what it is. They have this arrogance to them. And it popped up at times. And like we even talked about it here. I remember back in January, Kristaps, or even in the playoffs, but Kristaps had a comment where it's like, you know, we're the champs, right? So in a sense, it's a compliment, right? That team, like, and you're sitting here thinking like, you know, there is an arrogance to this team, right? And around the sphere, and us included, we felt guilty of this, right? At times, but they were like the consensus, like, okay, right, the Celtics into the NBA Finals, right? But that's not how this works, right? That's not how this league works. Every reigning champ has been written into the finals the next year. Denver got it, right? Like Toronto didn't get it, but like every team was supposed to get back to the finals. They were the team to beat. So there was an arrogance to them, and I can agree with that. And the unfortunate situation is what the Celtics team is now realizing is that windows are short and that things aren't given to them. And now your best player ruptured his Achilles and likely to miss the entirety of next season, although there is no timetable. I'm optimistic. So it's like that's the unfortunate situation is you had this roster, a very capable roster, got banged up with injuries. Your arrogance kind of seeped through in the playoffs, and now you find yourself without your superstar and in his eighth or ninth season. So it's a shame.
There is an interest. Yeah.
Oh, no, you go first.
I'll go. There's just an interesting thing to think about. It's like Brad Stevens. Obviously, you got to think about play style. You got to think about, do they fit in the system? Do they work hard?
Right.
Like, are they injured and all that? But then you also got to be like, what guys kind of decided to take their foot off the gas? Like, I'm not saying Porzingis did, but I mean, Seamus talked about it. And unfortunately for me, like, I understand he had illness. I understand all these things, but like, unfortunately, my first thing that comes to mind is like, I shake my head kind of like, dude, like, it's like, that's the first reaction I get. It's just like, the ability to not be available, like to not fight through these things. It's like, does that come as a preparation in the offseason? Like, how do I prepare for this? Like, did these guys get injured because in the offseason they decided to not give everything they have and work and improve themselves and sustain themselves for another chance at a run? Like, that's something that Brad Stevens has to keep in mind too. It's like, yeah, we got a championship, but who am I going to have that's going to every day, day in and day out, no matter the circumstance, no matter if we're winning or losing, who's going to give me 100% every single time? And I'm sure he's thinking about those things as well. But go ahead, Griffin.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah. I want to say, and this is going to be the hard truth. I really think this season, we had that little taste of, what it's like to win a championship, and this is the hard truth, and we enjoyed that. And I will say this, I hate to admit it, but I really think we had championship hangover. I mean, you saw that big slump we had, and I think that's what could have caused a lot of the injuries. I mean, you saw during the end of the season when we turned it up, but a lot of teams that we faced were weaker teams, and they were not as competitive anyways. And you look at that, and it's like, then you go into playoffs and you battle a hard Magic team who has something to prove. When we had Cortez on here, he was like, they just want to prove something. They want to bring viewers to Orlando. They want to show that they're a team that could be fighting. You had Cortez stressing that. So we got beat up in that series. And then you move to the Knicks, where the Knicks were playing hard, intense playoff basketball. And we, like I said, we're not keeping our foot on the gas pedal. And we weren't ready for this playoffs. I think that's at the end of the day, the Boston Celtics were not ready to compete in this playoff. And I think, this season we weren't as prepared. And I have to say, it doesn't happen all the time, because a lot of the times, like MJ, for example, I'll use him. He got a taste of what it's like to win a championship, and he just wanted more and more and more. The Boston Celtics, they loved that taste. They were like, all right, let's have fun. But it's understandable. They're young. They enjoyed it. And I mean, with all the criticism and everything, I think they deserve to have fun. But before you go, Rob, I have this picture for Andrew. I had to pull it up.
Maybe. Let's go. Griffin's on fire today with these graphics.
I know he is.
I had to pull that up really quick. We had to get some Jaylen Brown Rocky. That intense training. That's Seamus. I have to say this. I don't want to see the underwater video. I want to see a Rocky training video. I want him to wear this exact fit and go up to those stairs and do this. This is what
maybe it'd be running up the garden stairs, running up the everything, just be traveling around Boston.
That's what we need. We need a Boston version of the Rocky montage with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown.
The classic one is Larry Bird running around the little walkway, the old Boston Garden. Like they had the second balcony, and he was running around the walkway. It's but I'll say this about Jaylen Brown. We need to see the workout video where, like, Andrew, you need to be the one who takes it, where you just see him out in society and you're like, whoa, Jaylen Brown's working out over here. Like, I'm tired of all the Ben Simmons nonsense where it's like, all right, I'm going to work out. It's like, set up a camera right now. Like, all right, I'm going to work out here.
I agree. No,
I'm tired of that.
100%.
It needs to be like, you guys ever watch the Adam Sandler movie Hustle? It needs to be like videos where it's like, obviously it's recorded because it's a movie, but like essentially if he had like a trainer and like doing that, and like Andrew, for example, walking around with the camera, like, oh yeah, getting like that good raw footage, actually hard. If you have to watch Hustle, like
it'd be great.
It's a great movie.
Dude, it'd be a great look. It'd be a great look for him, to be honest, like being in the city doing that stuff. Like
it's
it'd be good for the culture.
It's like when Pritchard was in Brooklyn and he just got caught playing randomly one-on-one against that guy. And they're like, yeah, here's Pritchard play one-on-one.
You automatically have more appreciation, more respect. Like I already have the utmost respect for him, but
I do want to talk about Griffin, kind of going off your point on what went wrong with the Celtics. I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I feel like that's kind of been like the stage of like reflection. Like, okay, what did Boston do wrong this season? Like, where they were a 60-win team, how did they not make the finals again? Right. I think in today, because you mentioned MJ, the league has changed so much now. Where each and every offseason, teams are adapting so much quicker to what they had just saw the next season. I think Boston's downfall was they didn't change anything. And I know that sounds crazy, right? And they kept the core, which they should have done. But I do think there needed to be changes in the back end of the roster that weren't made, right? And that's kind of why Lonnie Walker was so appealing to a lot of people. It's because it was new. It was something refreshing. It wasn't just the same core. And I think that's kind of the blueprint. And it's a tough blueprint to ask teams to do, but that's kind of the blueprint to going back to back is, okay, you have to assess your roster, right? And on a team that just won an NBA championship, you have to make moves that adds to your roster, essentially. You have to add to your roster post-championship, and it's a really tough task. Boston went the extension route, but looking at it, like, Sam Hauser probably should have been shipped off last season, right? Or someone should have been moved. And I think that was the biggest, like, okay, what went wrong? Boston didn't add. There was no new aspect to the Celtics. They were who they were. They gave teams a full offseason to adapt to it, a full 82 games to adapt to it, and then they tired. And then the second one is they tired themselves out. I also think in new NBA, that extra month you play from halfway through May, post first round, to winning an NBA Finals is so much extra basketball, and that is so much extra rest for other teams. I do think it's starting to catch up with teams. Seamus, you made, in my opinion, one of the best points I think I've heard regarding like injury and sustainability. Maybe resting isn't what's best, right? Like maybe like so. Here come the Celtics, right? They play late into June. This is a team that's the king of rest this season, right? You know, Tatum would miss a game, and then Kristaps was out, and Horford would sit, and all these guys are in and out. Holiday, we were managing them all season, and the playoffs roll around, and you're still tired because you're out of shape, right? Because these other guys are doing it every day. Their bodies are accustomed to the routine. They are ready for it. So I do think there was just Boston looked drained, right? Like at game 1 and game 2 against the Knicks, there were times I was sitting there and I was watching it and I was like, they just look flat. Like they just look exhausted. You can tell physically they just look exhausted, and they played like it. And then lastly, what went wrong with the Boston Celtics? Joe Mazzulla, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Oh, well, Joe Mazzulla slander.
We don't have to take it back. I'm sorry. That is my 3. What went wrong for the Celtics? That's my 3, kind of my 3-headed goat, I guess. Shout out Ian Angelo. That I put together. You don't have to get into all of it, but I mean, when I heard you talk about it, I was like, I've been thinking about it a lot recently, and I think those are the 3 main things that went wrong.
Yeah, Seamus, though, we have some more breaking news, though. So what do we got next on the rumors? You know, what do we got? What do we got here?
Well, I'll add on to Rob's point of what went wrong too. Is just like you talk about the Celtics not making a change. I would 100% agree with the fact the Celtics this season, they didn't make a change, but they also they cast themselves into a corner of being very one-dimensional this season in many different aspects, and I think that just had a terrible effect at the end, particularly in the playoffs, to their season when it came down to specifically that Knicks Celtics series. But we even saw it in that Magic Celtics series too, where we were giving the Magic a lot of credit, but at the end of the day, it's like maybe the Celtics should have handled that series a little better than how they did. But ultimately, those changes that we're talking about that weren't made in the past, they probably will be made on the horizon here in the offseason. And a player we're talking about a lot here is in the at least rumor. When we talk about rumors, right, in the rumor mill, on the internet, on Twitter, threads, wherever people talk about the NBA trade rumors, Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is a widely discussed name, has been a widely discussed name by Celtics Nation. And this is really our first legitimate rumor of the offseason. Every other rumor we have in here, every story, it's not necessarily a concrete rumor to the point where we're saying, oh, this other team is involved or this transaction is imminent. This transaction isn't imminent. However, this is an official rumor. This is one of those rumors you have to take seriously because it comes from Mark Stein, a notable NBA reporter. But this one reads by Hoops Hype: Mavericks have trade interest in Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, and Chris Paul. League sources say Dallas is expected to at least explore whether there are any feasible trade pathways to Boston's Drew Holiday. Complicated as that would likely be, given the 3 years and $104 million still left on Holiday's contract, while also maintaining an interest in a far more reasonable trade target, as we've discussed on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Lonzo Ball, another name to monitor for Dallas. Chris Paul, and that's coming from Mark Stein. Also at the bottom of this, it says the free agent to be just turned 40 on. So this about Chris Paul at the bottom, just in general about Chris Paul turning 40 and played and started in all 82 games last year, which is just outrageous for where Chris Paul is in his NBA career. But the main storyline, the main talking point here is Drew Holiday and the Dallas Mavericks exploring potential routes to Drew Holiday. It's not guaranteed the Mavericks will be the team trading for Drew Holiday. It's not guaranteed the Celtics trade Drew Holiday. It's not guaranteed either of these teams will make a transaction work for Drew Holiday either way. Holiday going to the Mavericks or not. But that's a concrete rumor. Mark Stein, Dallas guy, Dallas Mavericks guy, notable NBA reporter, has his Substack where he drops a lot of rumors around the NBA and particularly around the Dallas Mavericks. And that one, I do see, if you look at the Mavericks roster, the Mavericks, for some reason, the NBA, it's cornered itself into the state of Texas. It's like the three most interesting teams this offseason are all in Texas. It's the Mavericks, it's the Spurs, it's the Rockets. Those are literally the three most interesting teams this offseason. And the Dallas Mavericks are certainly part of that trio because the Mavericks, they give up on Luka Doncic, trade for Anthony Davis. And obviously, last season didn't end how anybody expected for Dallas. They grabbed the 10 seed, they lost in the play-in tournament, and it just felt like going into the offseason, yeah, the Mavericks have pieces, but are they really contender status? Are they really up there with the rest of the league? Kyrie, he's rehabbing a torn ACL. We have no idea when he's going to be back next season. But then all of a sudden, Dallas, they win the number one overall pick in Cooper Flagg. But not only did they win Cooper Flagg, they won another Ford, right? So on their roster, they just simply have another Ford who will be on their roster, who they probably will start right away. And on top of that, the Mavericks will be adding another $13 million in salary by adding Cooper Flagg. So the Mavericks, who are already at, I believe, 195 million or 197 million, if I'm not mistaken, on the season for total allocations next year, they're just around the first apron right now, and that's without um, Cooper Flagg. So let's see here in the notes. So I believe Dallas is just over the first apron at $197 million next season. The first apron is $195 million over the luxury tax. That's the first apron. So the Mavericks, they're gonna have to maneuver around that first apron and that second apron as well. But with $13 million coming on the books from the number one overall pick in Cooper Flagg, and another Ford coming on the roster, joining the roster, there's a move to be made for the Mavericks in either cutting salary somewhere on their roster, but also, not just cutting salary, but cutting players to make the rotations make sense. Right now, you have Gafford, you have Lively, Anthony Davis as your big man core. You probably think one of Gafford or Lively, most likely Gafford, is gone in that situation, and he's part of the bunch that you see on the Mavericks roster could be dealt away in a salary dumping move this summer, considering the Mavericks will, number one, want to get themselves around the first apron, right? With the Cooper Flagg salary, that would put them just either just below or over the second apron. So it would put them, I believe, just over the second apron if they add Cooper Flagg's salary, the Dallas Mavericks. So under that circumstance, the Mavericks, they're gonna want to be selling a couple of contracts to get under that first apron or get around that first apron. Most likely, what they're gonna want to do is probably get around it. Under it, we'll have to see. Obviously, teams they want to make their roster as cheap and as good as humanly possible. But in these circumstances, obviously, if you have to pay a little bit of money for a good roster, especially in the Mavericks situation where you have Kyrie and AD, you have no idea how many more years you have to compete with them. I think the Mavericks go ahead and actually they go ahead and pay for this roster a little bit, even though, what is the championship window and viability with Cooper Flagg on the roster just initially with Kyrie and AD. We'll have to see. I think that's going to be an interesting story in the future where the Mavericks mesh eras, where this Kyrie AD era, it's going to have to somehow transform and mesh into the Cooper Flagg era. But just looking at Dallas's roster and their payroll right now, outside of literally Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, everybody else is expendable. Every single player is expendable out there for the Dallas Mavericks, outside of Kyrie and AD. And Kyrie, he has a $43 million, or sorry, yeah, 43 point, basically $44 million player option this summer Kyrie has in front of him. And I would guess Kyrie, he opts out of that and then stays in Dallas. That's usually the typical route we see with these kind of players and all-stars. Um, Basically, he's gonna opt out and sign for a deal that's more, maybe a little bit more team friendly, a little bit more. I put an emphasis on a little bit more in the future. He'll opt out and sign for more future money. You'll probably see 30 mil per year, somewhere around there for Kyrie Irving, 3 years into the future, probably a 3-year, $90 million deal, something like that. 3 years, $100 million. is possible for Kyrie. You'll probably see Kyrie sign an extension this summer with the Mavericks. You'll see him opt out and sign back. So two players I'm inking in for the Mavericks next season. It's Kyrie, it's AD. Those are the top two players on the Mavericks. AD is going to be making $54 million next season, and then Kyrie, I speculate, will be making somewhere in the 30s. But after them, after Kyrie and AD, every other player, every single player on the Mavericks roster, expendable. Klay Thompson, $16.7 million, expendable. PJ Washington, $14.2 million, expendable. Daniel Gafford, $14.4 million, expendable. All of these players, specifically those three, Klay Thompson, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, I think we're going to see the Mavericks try to sell one of those players who are making over $14 million. But then the rest of the roster, too, you have other movable salaries on the rest of the roster for the Mavericks. Caleb Martin, $9.6 million. Najee Marshall, $9 million. Max Christie, $7.7. Jaden Hardy, $6 million. Derek Lively, he's going to stay. $5.3 million for Derek Lively is a steal. That's like a Pritchard contract, literally, for the Mavericks. That's going to be probably your starting center, most likely, for the Mavs, making $5.5 million. Dwight Powell, he has a player option for $4 million. You got to think he's probably going to pick that up. Olivier Maxis Prosper, $3 million, and then unguaranteed for Brandon Williams, $2.3 million. So literally every single player outside of Kyrie and AD on the Mavericks roster, expendable. So if you break it down mathematically, the Mavericks, I mean, they have 16. Let's just add this up real quick. So 16, 14, 14. They're going to have upwards of around 70, $80 million to spend in tradable salaries. Like, the Mavericks, that's what I look at with the Celtics too. The Mavericks and the Celtics, they're basically two teams where their staples are at the top, right? For the Mavericks, it's going to be Kyrie, AD, Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag's going to be making about $13 million. For the Celtics, it's going to be Brown, it's going to be White, it's going to be Tatum, likely Pritchard as well. And then after that, the Celtics essentially have $80 to $90 million in salary that could be moved anywhere. Literally could be moved anywhere. That's what the Mavericks situation is as well, where Kyrie, AD, Cooper Flag, everybody else who's making up, upwards of 60, 70, 80, 90, even $90 million in total between all those contracts. All of those players, the Mavericks can deal anywhere. And they're in that situation right now where they're going to try to sell some of these contracts, but they're also going to try to alleviate some of the clogged rotations within their roster, particularly at the forward slot. You just have a lot of forwards on that Dallas Mavericks roster. And I think you could certainly see a player like PJ Washington or Daniel Gafford, who are both expiring deals, who both players too could be demanding future paydays. I think those are players the Mavericks are likely going to move on from. And you never know, Drew Holiday on the Celtics roster, the only thing, and we'll get into this, I guess, more here in a second, but this theoretical scenario between the Mavs and the Celtics, right, for Drew Holiday, there's a little bit of a question mark from my end of, okay, the viability is here, the contracts work for both teams, the reality of the situation works for both teams. Like, okay, the Mavs, they have a couple of fours. They really need a guard like Drew Holiday on their roster. Drew Holiday would fit with Kyrie Irving when Kyrie comes back. He would also fit in the rotation when Kyrie is gone. We know how versatile of a player Drew Holiday can be. So there's some sensibility within the Mavericks wanting Drew Holiday and having the contracts to make it work. And obviously the Celtics looking at their situation, potentially wanting to make that work. The only thing I'm a little skeptical about when it comes to the Mavericks and Celtics making a Drew Holiday trade is, the deal everybody is giving out right now is PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford for Drew Holiday. And under that circumstance, I'm sitting there going, what's the point of, what is the point of doing that if you're the Celtics? Okay, because under that circumstance, Gafford and Washington make a combined $28 million. And if you want to throw in another player to make the deal work, which you're going to have to in terms of the salary matching, it's going to be Dwight Powell potentially, and that's an extra $4 million. That brings you up to $32 million if you're the Mavericks to trade for $32 million in Drew Holiday's contract. So within that equation, so yeah, just Drew Holiday real quick. Drew Holiday next season, he'll be making, I believe, $32.4 million, then 34.8 in 26-27, and then a player option for $37.2 million in 27-28. Next season, Drew Holiday, he's making 32.4. If you gather up Gafford, Washington, and Dwight Powell, that brings you to $32 million if you're the Mavericks. You can ship those three players out for Drew Holiday. I think that makes sense for the Mavericks. I don't see it making a ton of sense for the Celtics because of this standpoint. If you're getting rid of Drew Holiday, the reason you're shipping off Drew Holiday if you're the Celtics is to A, cut salary. If you're the Celtics, you're going $32 million. We're cutting salary later on down the line. 37.2 is a tough sell for Drew in 27-28. We want to get that money off our books later on down the line when we want to better utilize that space elsewhere, right? So the Celtics, the whole point of trading Drew Holiday is number one, getting rid of his future salary. But also number two, it's about getting future assets in return that could potentially work or pay dividends later on down the line when Jason Tatum comes back into the lineup. With PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and say Dwight Powell, he's thrown in there, or another player, Prosper, he's thrown in there. In a trade scenario like that, I don't see how the Celtics benefit long term from a deal like that, other than simply getting off of Drew Holiday's money. Because PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, they're expiring. So you're saying, okay, you're getting off of Drew Holiday's money in the future, right? So if Washington and Gafford, if they go expired next year and you let them walk, you're getting rid of 37.2 in 27-28 and 34.8 in 26-27. So you're getting rid of that future money from Drew Holiday. The only problem is if you're bringing in Washington and Gafford, you don't alleviate, like if you're the Celtics, you don't alleviate yourself from $32.4 million next year because you're adding on that salary in Powell, in Washington, in Gafford. You're not cutting any salary next year. You're only cutting it in the future. And that's only to say if Gafford and Washington walk and don't receive paydays within the Celtics organization. And so under that circumstance, it makes no sense from my standpoint to have Washington and Gafford around for one season in which Tatum isn't even playing. But then later on down the line, when we save that money from Drew Holiday's contract, if Gafford and Washington walk, we have nothing for that Drew Holiday deal. Obviously, there could be picks thrown into the deal that make it a little bit more enticing for the Celtics. But if Gafford and Washington are with the Celtics and then walk, they'll be walking in the summer that the Celtics will be welcoming Jason Tatum back to the court. So when Jason Tatum comes back to the court in 2026, in October of 2026, that's where I'm not even thinking about next season with Tatum. I know people are optimistic, February, May, whatever people want to think. I don't think it's happening next season. I think you push it out to October 26th, 2026 and give Tatum that rest time. Tatum comes back October 2026 in my mind. By that time period, if you make this Holiday move with Washington and Gafford, you might not have Washington and Gafford on the roster. You might save the money later on down the line, but you have nothing to show for it if you're the Celtics. And what you do have to show for it, you showed in the one season where you didn't have Tatum out on the floor. So that deal to me doesn't make it doesn't make a ton of future sense for the Celtics, where it's like, okay, this next season, if you make the deal, you don't save any money, which is part of the reason why you'd want to make the deal. Is why, if you're not saving money next year with Drew Holiday, right? Why not just keep him on the roster and the next offseason go and try to do the same thing? Because now you could say Drew Holiday could be a lesser player next offseason, net less, because he's farther removed from the championship moment and him impacting the Celtics in their championship run and impacting the Celtics in a positive way. You never know. Drew Holiday could have a good season, though, next year. You never know from that standpoint. But that's where I just look at this whole situation and go, we're supposed to be selling Holiday to some degree. Like, we are supposed to be cutting salary. A move with the Mavericks wouldn't cut salary for the Celtics. And furthermore, it wouldn't really it wouldn't cut immediate salary for the Celtics. It would cut future salary. But then by cutting that future salary, the Celtics would be then punting on an asset, which to me is just that's how you go backwards in the NBA, where you start replacing assets with nothing. We've seen this with the Celtics in the past, where the reason 2021 happened is because 2019, there were a lot of players on that 2019 roster that simply walked for nothing. Kyrie Irving walked for nothing. Terry Rozier walked for nothing. Marcus Morris walked for nothing. Three amazing players, assets the Celtics held on their roster who all made contributions during different playoff runs, all walked for nothing. And that culminated in the 21 season where, oh, we're starting Shimi Ojale and Romeo Langford and Grant Williams. And it's like, oh, yeah, we're starting all these young players we don't believe in because the Celtics just let all these assets walk out the door, all the quality veteran assets. So that's where I just, the Drew Holiday situation when it comes to this, Mavericks rumor, I just look at it and go, what? I understand the contracts work. I understand the sensibility from the Mavericks perspective. But looking at it from the Celtics perspective, what is the appeal of trading with the Mavericks other than getting rid of Drew Holiday's, particularly $37.2 million in salary in 27-28? I don't see the appeal beyond that because literally it's like you're getting assets for the one season in which Tatum isn't around. And then in order to save that money in the future, you're letting those assets walk for when Tatum comes back, which again just doesn't make a ton of sense in my mind. And it just goes back to the fact that if you're the Celtics, if you're making a deal with the Mavericks, I just feel like it's for cost cutting purposes. Yes, you get something initially, but it just you're giving away an asset in Drew Holiday, which I'll go back on. You gave up assets to go get Drew Holiday, like Aaron Nesmith playing very well for the Indiana Pacers right now. As we all know, Aaron Nesmith has been an X factor in that Knicks Pacers series, especially game one. Nesmith, I mean, I don't know what got into him that game, but the Nesmith stock is, we got to pull up our old 2022 post game where we're like, free Nesmith, free Nesmith. It's like, we knew what was going on with Nesmith back then. But regardless, like you traded, if you're the Celtics, you traded Aaron Nesmith to the Pacers, right? Who was like at the time, he wasn't flourishing in Boston, and he was a player that ultimately needed to probably exit the Celtics organization to actually achieve his true peak. But you give away that asset if you're the Celtics. You give away Daniel Tice, and then a bunch of back end of the roster role players essentially for Malcolm Brogdon, right? And then you go ahead and flip Malcolm Brogdon the next offseason. Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams, who the Celtics fell into at pick number 27. People forget Robert Williams was basically a lottery pick, but then obviously the injury concerns we see playing out in his NBA career now. That was the concern and thought on draft night that had him drop to 27. So the Celtics snag Robert Williams at 27 in 2018. They go and trade Nesmith or their lottery pick for Malcolm Brogdon. And then the Celtics package a couple picks, Brogdon, Robert Williams for Drew Holiday. Now you have Drew Holiday. You have to get something out of Drew Holiday. In my mind, if you don't get anything out of Drew Holiday, you're flipping, Robert Williams, you're flipping Aaron Nesmith, you're flipping Malcolm Brogdon into Washington and Gafford, who, let's face it, could not be on the roster when Jason Tatum comes back into the lineup and could net the Celtics nothing real in the moment or in the future. So that's where I just think the Celtics have to be careful with potentially, like that's where I just, in the whole entire scope of the offseason, this is where I just find it to be really hard in trading Drew Holiday is how do the Celtics get future return for when Jason Tatum comes back for Drew Holiday? How do they cut costs while doing that? And how do they find a trade suitor that actually wants Drew Holiday at the level he's at right now? Because the Mavericks, they're certainly a team that will be competing next season that need a player like Drew Holiday and that find value in Drew. However, do they really have the assets the Celtics want in return for Drew Holiday that really fulfills every check mark the Celtics need to fulfill in trading away Drew Holiday? That's the question right now, and that's the balance of this offseason is just like who are the suitors out there for what the Celtics are trying to achieve, and how do those suitors, how do they get their return as well and what they need, particularly for a guy like Drew Holiday. And that right now, the Mavericks and Celtics, they're being discussed heavily, but I'll say there's some flaws in the Mavericks Celtics connection there.
I do want to say this. I think, and I've said it on this program a lot since the offseason started, next year you could essentially see it being a bridge year for the Boston Celtics. And that's why I wouldn't mind getting some young talent for Drew Holiday. That way we could develop him, next season in order to compete when Jason Tatum is back. Because essentially, I've heard a lot of things how the Celtics still want to be competitive next year. But at the same time, you want to build a team for when Jason Tatum comes back, you guys can compete right away, right then too, So you look at that and there's a lot of rumors, and I don't know if we have this in there, but I'm going to say a guy from Indy. I would love, he's on my dream wish list, and we'll do that probably next week on podcast, like a wish list, but we said last time, maybe Miles Turner. I would love that. That's on my wish list, but he's expensive.
I'm sorry, Griffin. The boat has sailed on that one. Miles Turner, and Zach Lowe made a tremendous point about Miles Turner. Miles Turner, his basketball game has not been discussed at all in the past 10 years. I mean, he was a 2015 draft pick. All right, Miles Turner has been with the Pacers since 2015, since the Paul George era. The last 10 years, it feels like the conversation around Miles Turner, it's been nothing about his ability on court, and it's been everything about trade rumors with Miles Turner. And Zach Lowe even mentioned with Bill Simmons, I believe last night. They filmed this last night. Listened to it last night. I believe he mentioned it was close in 2020. A sign and trade deal. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Hayward, right before he signed with the Hornets, there was a deal in place potentially for Hayward to sign with the Indiana Pacers and for the Celtics to get Miles Turner in return in that sign and trade. That was very close in 2020. I remember those rumors coming out. But here's what I'm saying. Miles Turner, in the past, he's been discussed in all these trade rumors. And to me, there have been moments where I'm like, Miles Turner, his contract and his worth don't really match up. In time, I think his contract has aged a little better now. And I think his game as well has aged better in the league. And he's just gotten better as well, just Miles Turner in general. But I'll say on the Miles Turner rumor front, it's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Griffin. I don't like to tell people to give up, but at this point in time, it's like we had our chance. We had our chance in 2020. We had our chance in 2018, in 2019. Anytime in the early 2020s. I mean, we were talking about when Tyrese Halliburton was traded to the Pacers. Part of the conversation was, all right, Halliburton, he's traded to Indiana. And that was part of the Pacers kind of tearing down their roster. And, okay, we're dealing away Sabonis here and getting back young talent in return. Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield in that package, amongst other assets as well. And Justin Holiday. Why did I just remember? I was like, Justin Holiday was in that deal as well. I was like, who's the random role player I'm picturing right now? It was Drew's brother. We're talking about Drew, but Drew's brother was in that deal. But that is a moment in 2022 where we're talking about, the Indiana Pacers, maybe they have to tear this thing down and sell. When is Miles Turner would be the logical next piece to be moved. It's like, okay, Miles Turner, he's nearly a 10-year veteran, a center that other teams could use. The Pacers should move on from Miles Turner. Didn't happen in 2022, didn't happen in 2023, didn't happen in 2024. And finally, the Pacers, one game away from making the NBA Finals.
I know.
This is just, if you look at different windows fluctuating, like opening and closing and fluctuating, the Miles Turner window, to me, has been wide open for years. And now the way he's played in particularly this year's NBA playoffs in 2025, and now with the Pacers on the precipice of making the NBA Finals, that window has been just slammed shut. I mean, it was open field day for Miles Turner. Rumors. With the Pacers now potentially making the finals, that window is shut. It's like Miles Turner, perfect modern day big, floor spacing big, can block shots, deter shots. I would even say at this point, it's like, who would you rather have, Porzingis or Miles Turner? It's like, I think
Miles Turner.
I know. It's like, unfortunately, it's gotten to that level.
Yeah, but But what's our next rumors though? We scratched up on the Drew Holiday. We're loaded with some rumors because it's all you got right now until you could actually identify what the Celtics are doing.
So
I just want
We
to
have
say
a
something
couple.
real quick
Go
about
ahead.
Yeah,
the
of course,
Gafford and the Washington trade. Like, I think this offseason for the Celtics is going to be a lot of like, do we play with some risk, or are we a little more conservative and wait for Tatum? Because I think Washington and Gafford, if you trade for them, like you said, Seamus, the contract's coming up. Do they leave without, and we don't get any assets in return the next season? Like, are the players we trade for, if that's the direction the Celtics going, like if we were to trade for Gafford and Washington, are they actually going to potentially give us an opportunity to compete for a championship next season with Brown? Like, I think if that's the direction you go, you have to make sure you get players that you have confidence in, that they could potentially give you that opportunity. But then it's also like, if you go all in, what's it look like on the back end? So it's the Celtics are in an interesting position where they have to really play around with that risk and see, like, are we willing to risk this? Are we willing to play with these different factors?
Well, I'll add on to that too. The Gafford and Washington in the future, specifically them. Maybe you could even throw in Klay Thompson too. With those guys, what's interesting about those contracts is just the Celtics. They're Washington and Gafford. They're up for paydays next year.
Mhm.
They're up for paydays in the summer of 2026. If the Celtics make a move with Holiday, this is just where like you just take the entire equation, right, and write it down on a piece of paper. It's like, does this really add up? Does this add up here for the Celtics? If you're trading away Drew Holiday, part of the point of trading Drew Holiday is maybe trading him at his peak, like getting the most value at this point for him, knowing in the future you're probably not competing for the championship next season if you're the Celtics. And then on top of that, you're trading Drew Holiday because he is owed $37.2 million in 27-28.
And can I
So
say though, Seamus?
go ahead,
Can I
Griffin.
say? But I feel essentially too, you have those players as a bridge year and an experiment of what they could build without Tatum. And if it works out, that's when you extend them. But if not, if
Well,
it
that's
doesn't,
what I was gonna say. Is like you could
Mhm.
there could be a future where you trade for Gafford and Washington, and then those guys are up for paydays, and then you kick over money to Washington or Gafford one if not both of those
True.
guys. There's a scenario where you kick money to those guys, and that's still cheaper than $37 million for Drew Holiday later on down the line. That's where you could see the Celtics maybe gain an advantage. But again, it's like, so we're going to trade Drew Holiday for lesser talent now to save money in the future to potentially pay two guys the same amount of money. Like that's where this whole thing is not quite adding up to me. Where I'm going,
Mhm.
okay, you're trading Drew Holiday away to like partially the reason why the Celtics would be trading away Drew Holiday, though partially the reason it's to get rid of salary, and not only future salary, but for next season. Next season, the Celtics aren't going to be competing with Jason Tatum. If the Celtics pay into the luxury tax again next season, I mean, that repeater tax is going to hit the Celtics hard when Jason Tatum comes back into the lineup. So that's how the Celtics, like next season, I think the Celtics are going to try to maneuver their books to actually meet the expectation of the team. Like, I don't see the team paying right now. The Celtics are on the hook for $227 million worth of salary next season. That's not even including Cornette. That's not including Al Horford. That is not including Torrey Craig. Any of the free agents the Celtics could re-sign this offseason and could make a fair amount of salary, most notably Luke Cornette as a Celtics free agent. The second apron is $207.8 million. So the Celtics already are $20 million past the second apron without Horford and Cornette, neither of them sign. So if you sign both of them, you're saying that might be an extra $15 million in salary on top of the 227. So then under those circumstances, you're saying what? 242 for 242 for a team that's probably not going to compete for
Man.
the championship next
Yeah. No,
season.
it's just
That
not
is just
logical.
astronomical. That isn't $242 million and putting yourself what $36 million over the second apron. That is just for a team that, again, doesn't really have championship aspirations. They have competitive aspirations. I'll say that. Next year, I see the
Yeah.
Celtics. I could see them gaining a top 4 seed in the East. It's just I don't think they're going to be the top dog in the East. I don't think they're going to be the prohibited favorites as we've seen the last 2 seasons. But a $242 million bill for a team that's maybe a 4 seed next year, maybe even with other teams rising like the Pistons, like the Magic, you're going to see a world where the Celtics cut costs off that huge, like right now, 227 million is huge. If it goes up to 240 with Cornette and Horford, that's just astronomical. And under those circumstances, why would the Celtics make a move to go sideways? Like, yes, you'd be adding a big, and you could argue that Washington and Gafford could be a better long-term move for the Celtics than keeping Drew Holiday. Just simply put, right there, get rid of the contracts,
Yeah.
get rid of the logistics. You could say that would be a better long-term move, but it's just part of why you would get rid of Holiday in this circumstance is to cut money off of that astronomical salary number the Celtics are sporting next season. And it doesn't make much sense to me for the Celtics to not cut any salary next season, and then part of the appeal with the trade be, oh well, we're cutting money in the future, particularly $37 million 2 seasons from now. But that's when Jason Tatum will be back in the lineup, and by the time Jason Tatum comes back into the lineup in 2026, it's like, what do you have to, if you're saving money from the Holiday deal, what do you have to show for the deal you made with the Mavericks for 2 expiring deals? And if you do have something to show for it, it means the Celtics went ahead and paid either Washington or Gafford, if not both of them. And it's like, okay, do the Celtics, what is that a better long-term outlook if you have Gafford and Washington long-term under contract after next season, beyond the
Yeah.
year
Like, what are
without
you
Tatum?
paying them?
Is that a better long-term option for the Celtics than Drew Holiday in general? And if you're saying that's a better long-term option, I mean, that again gets into, well, if the Celtics want to go down that route, they're going to have to pay quite a few dollars, especially next. Like, that's the huge point here is next season. It's about getting past next season, right? Next season, if the Celtics make a move with the Mavericks, it's like they're not cutting any move. The Celtics aren't cutting any money next season, and they're also in the future like not guaranteed to have anything from that deal. And that's just where it's like, does it really add up from the Celtics perspective to do a deal like that with the Mavericks when it comes to future salary implications? It's like, do the Celtics really want to pay for a roster next year that's wildly expensive, that has no aspirations of winning the championship, and then
Yeah. It's just
maybe
it's
it's like
investor.
you're spending astronomically, and then you're saying maybe later on down the line
Yeah.
to paying more astronomical bills for a team that we don't know how competitive like they'll actually. So I'm just looking to 26, 27 when Tatum comes back in the lineup. How is that team going to actually look with Gafford and Washington on it? Like, there's no guarantee that,
That
like,
too.
if the Celtics pay Bango bucks for that team, there's no guarantee that that team's actually good as well. Like, in 2 seasons, we could see, oh, the Magic, they're a juggernaut, or the Pistons, they've hopped up in the East. The Knicks are still very formidable. The Cavs and the Pacers, they're formidable, and you can see the Celtics, even with Washington, Gafford, Brown, and Tatum, they could be a team, and White. They could be a team that, oh, maybe they're still the 5th or 6th best team at that point in time. We don't know how Tatum's going to return, and I feel like I could talk about this all day, because this has been the top rumor on the rumor mill in the NBA right now. It's Holiday in the Mavericks. I see the contracts working out. I see the purpose. Like, this is what I'll say about this though. I was of the idea that Drew Holiday will not have too much value this summer. Considering we already saw a rumor come out that the Mavericks are looking at the feasibility of trading for Holiday, shows me that maybe Drew Holiday does have a little bit more value out on the market than what's initially perceived. It's just about finding that trade suitor. Maybe only the Mavericks. If you look at the rest of the NBA landscape, maybe the Mavericks, that is the perfect situation for Drew. And maybe they want to, maybe the Dallas Mavericks actually want to get specifically that deal done for themselves. Maybe the Mavericks are one of the only teams out there. But I think going into the summer, the Celtics, it's very possible they net something good for Drew Holiday if they actually go down that route. But you could also see another route where Kristaps Porzingis, he is the only one moved, and the Celtics sell Kristaps and do nothing else, and they put themselves under that first apron. I texted Franco about this the other night. It's like the Celtics could actually, talking about all these crazy moves over the offseason, they could actually do nothing. They could sell Porzingis, put themselves under the second apron, draft their players, maybe make another salary shifting move with Xavier Tillman, somebody like that, Sam Hauser as well, and that's it. Maybe they sell Hauser. Maybe the Celtics sell Porzingis, sell Hauser, sell Tillman, and that's the end of the
I
offseason, and
mean,
we
it's
just
kind of
roll with a
what
bunch of
Brad
young
said.
players.
It's kind of what Brad Stevens
That's
said. He's kind of like, hey, don't expect anything too crazy. Obviously, he could be bluffing, but you never know.
But speaking of Porzingis, this is another rumor from Hoops Hype here. Most rival teams continue to regard Kristaps Porzingis as the most movable Boston vet, thanks to the Latvian big man's $30.7 million in expiring money. So Porzingis, this one not a huge rumor. We could speculate this on our own, but a lot of rival teams continue to regard Kristaps Porzingis as the most movable Boston vet, and that's because of Kristaps Porzingis's expiring contract. And then, of course, this one coming from Shams Charania on the Pat McAfee show. Shams Charania saying the Boston Celtics are going to make trades. So completely contrary to what we're saying, the Celtics could do nothing.
Where is
Here's
that
what I'm
coming
saying.
from?
The Celtics aren't going to do nothing. Like the Celtics are going to do something. Okay, so I'm totally on board. Like Shams Charania,
I'm not
the
gonna lie though.
Celtics are going to do something.
That's like an obvious. That's like, yeah, they're gonna make a trade. They kind of have to. It's like
It's just to
it's
what
you know what I
extent
mean.
will the
It's just to what
trade?
extent,
It's like
right?
who, and it's like who.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you
yeah.
could see them going many different routes. I mean, the fans and everyone loves Porzingis here. Well, I'd say that kind of shifted in playoffs, but at the same time, like you could look and see, all right, Holiday might be the person, Porzingis might be the person, it might be both of them. There's a lot of question marks in the air right now, I believe.
But it's
Like,
also nice for the Celtics to have this kind of ability to, they're not stuck in one, um, you know, one trade option. Like they have different options to kind of navigate and explore, so they can kind of find the best suitable one.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's just like, I feel too, it's just finding that right fit. Like, and you look at it, it could be so many different moves that the Celtics make, but I think we've heard a lot of things, but that's just because you hear it every offseason. Rumors, they're rumors, Like I've heard so many rumors that are so far fetched and they don't happen. I mean, we could even get into rumors, as Seamus likes to say, like, remember the rumor when Anthony Davis was on the Pelicans, Tatum for Anthony Davis. I mean, there are so many rumors that you go to, but I think ultimately for the Boston Celtics, it's just going to be a fact of really finding that roster fit, and it's a lot of question marks. I feel like, honestly, what Brad Stevens said, we won't have an idea till draft night, though.
Yeah, and it's again, it's like moves will be made. It's just to what degree will how many moves will be made, who will be involved in those moves, and just what will the roster look like exactly next season. It could be very minimalistic. It could be a complete teardown. You could see, I have written down in my notes here. So you basically Tatum, Brown, White, Pritchard, and Shireman, I have as safe names on the Celtics roster.
yeah, I
And
agree.
then after that, at those five players, Tatum, Brown, White, Pritchard, and Shireman, that is $9.5 million under the salary cap. So just those five players, pretty expensive, and $145 million. However, at the same time, $145 million, that's $9.5 million under the cap. So the cap moving up, I would say moving up a lot quicker than what is perceived like in the past. The cap number, it moves pretty quickly, I will say. Like 145 seems crazily expensive, but then you realize it's actually under the salary cap, the soft cap for this year. But the point is, Holiday, Porzingis, Hauser, Tillman, Kata, Davison, and Wall, That is $82.4 million in legitimately movable contracts. $82.4 million. Holiday, Porzingis, Hauser, Tillman, Cada, Davison, and Walsh. $82.4 million. The Celtics can't aggregate salaries in a deal, which is unfortunate because they're over the second apron. But at the same time, the Celtics have a lot of money to move out there, and you could see some of this money moved. You could see none of this money moved. You could see all of it moved. You could legitimately see 7 players on the Celtics roster next year flip-flopped out for 7 different players. That is a legitimate possibility of what could happen. You could see one of those players swapped out. You could see all 7. That's kind of where we're at with the Celtics offseason right now. And I'll say usually the tendency in these moments in time is the Celtics. I won't even see a tendency of the Celtics, just the NBA in general. When you come to these forks in the road, right, in the offseason, last year wasn't a fork in the road for the Celtics. The Celtics were, I mean, they were on their path. They were flying down their path, traveling on their path, no problem. After winning the championship, didn't need to make a move. But now they've come to a fork in the road. What you typically see is teams go all in. And when I say all in on change. I would say typically you see the tendency with teams is in these situations where you have a fork in the road, teams really shift and maneuver their roster. They don't just make 1 or 2 moves. They don't just change a role player here or there. It's like, no, sometimes you might say, like with the Celtics roster right now, I think the top 5, Pritchard, Shireman, White, Brown, and Tatum. I think they're safe because of the circumstances. Everybody else, it's like you could see the next 7 guys all moved for 7 different players. That is a legitimate possibility out there. But this also just the Celtics are going to make trades. We know that. It's just about how many trades are they going to make. But the other rumor, I shouldn't even call it a rumor on here, but just piece of news from Shams Charania. Jason Tatum had his surgery just over 12 hours after his Achilles tear. Doctors believe that will allow Tatum to heal better in time. So we did hear that after Tatum's Achilles injury, that it was important. We've heard it from Brad Stevens and multiple other sources that it was important for Tatum to go ahead and go through with the surgery immediately because the longer you wait with an Achilles injury, the more susceptible that calf and leg area is to becoming weaker. Specifically, the calf muscle. If you let it go for a while, it's more susceptible to becoming weaker, and it's harder to rehab and gain that strength back in that calf muscle and that Achilles tendon. So there was certainly incentive to do the surgery right away for Jason Tatum, and Shams Charania reporting that it was just over 12 hours after his Achilles tear. So what? Jason Tatum, you're probably looking at what? He tore it at 9 p.m. at night and probably had a 9 a.m. surgery that next morning. So just over 12 hours. But more news. This one came out last week. And this was a widely, I would say, people threw this one around quite a bit on the internet waves. So people know about this one. The CEO of Steel Giant, I apologize. I apologize to one of the new owners of the Boston Celtics if I completely butchered the name of this company. Ars Arcelor Mittal. Arcelor Mittal. Mittal? We just gotta say it with confidence, folks. Arcelor Mittal. And a member of one of India's richest families is investing $1 billion into the William Chisholm-led purchase of the Boston Celtics. So a Aditya Mittal will likely be the second largest stakeholder of the 18-time NBA champions and potentially be the alternate governor in the future, according to multiple people familiar with the details. So this news, basically, we knew about Bill Chisholm trying to find owners, trying to find minority owners for the Celtics organization. Um, Bill Chisholm will have the majority stake, and then this is just how it works in any ownership group: is you buy the entire. You have like Bill Chisholm, he buys the entirety of the Boston Celtics, but he's going to have other stakeholders. There's going to be other
Mhm.
owners. Like that's what we saw with Wick Grosbeck. There were minority, like that's just what we see for every franchise. You have minority owners. You don't have one person controlling 100% of the stake. It's usually, you might have Bill Chisholm. He might own 52% of the stake or 40% of the
Right.
stake, and then
Majority.
the rest is just split up between different people. Well, $1 billion going to Aditya Mattel. I again apologize to our new see, like, this is like the one person, Andrew. I'm like, man, I don't want to get one of the largest funders of the Boston Celtics. I don't want to get his name wrong up in here. Like, like, it's one of
Yeah,
those
no,
that's like,
it's
I
it's
wish
a show, but
I needed to do my homework a
I
little bit
think
better
you're
on the
right.
pronunciations.
Aditya Mattal. I feel like that'd be it, but who knows?
I feel like it's
I
I
think you're
feel
on the
like
right track. I think you're
I
on the
think
right track.
that's the best stab you could have at it, though. I think that's
Aditya Mattel and our seller Mattel, our Keller, our seller. See, here's the thing too. I'm trying not to be too
Mattel.
American with it, because I
I
understand it's
know.
like one of India's richest families. I've heard other people call this company and this man the Indian steel giant, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't, sometimes you bring, as an American, as somebody who has the American accent, it's like sometimes we don't always think about it when we're talking, but man, we Americanize a
For
lot of
sure.
things, like
And
our English language.
we could be completely just absolutely butchering it. And it could be something completely different. Like something
I'm
we wouldn't
trying
even
I'm trying to do my
predict.
research right now.
But give us grace. Give us grace.
I'm trying to do
We'll learn it the next time.
I'm trying to do my research right now in the
That you
background.
could throw it in. You could throw it in there's some good pronunciation translators out there.
I don't,
Share one of
let's
the chat.
see.
I'm sure one of the chat GBTs would help you.
Well, that's why I don't trust those type of things, because I feel
That is
like,
true,
well,
actually.
see, because it's
Depends. You
not
need
a
a
real
source.
person from that company. Like, I want to hear somebody from that company or who's familiar, like, oh, say it, right?
That's
So
what
it's
we
like,
do over
okay,
here. That's what we do over here. We make sure we check our sources and we do it right, and we go into
yeah, see,
detail. We're not just
not
flying
correct.
around.
Yeah.
What I'm reading on YouTube, or what I'm hearing on I guess I'm not on YouTube. I'm on Google right now. What I'm hearing on here, what I'm hearing, like,
No,
that can't be it. That
that's
can't be it.
Americanized.
I think Seamus.
That is literally, when you talk about Americanized, this is exactly what it sounds like.
No, I think you have
Middle.
the best stab at it. I think you have the best stab at it.
Middle might be right too. Who knows?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
We'll-
Mattel. But we
we'll-
do have.
before-
I will say,
yeah.
two more little points here within all of our slides. Actually, we have three of them. Three. Number one, Derek White. So this one, the Celtics and Timberwolves will receive tax variance credit for Derek White and Jaden McDaniels not being named to one of the all defensive teams. Both players had bonuses in their contracts that were deemed likely from the prior season. Boston $250K, Minnesota $431K. So the Celtics will be saving $250,000 against the cap this season, because Derek White did not make an all defensive team, which was deemed
That's it.
likely.
That's one of those. Yeah, I'm happy,
prior
but
to
I'm not.
season.
That's a tough one.
That one's like, oh, positive for the Celtics, but it really, like, doesn't make a massive dent, like $250,000.
I know. Maybe I would have
I'll-
rather them get the defensive. Get on the team.
Yeah, and I'll point this out too. It's like, oh, Derek White not getting an extra $250,000. Derek White is just not getting that money now. It's like, yeah, kind of a bummer for Derek White.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what's also unfortunate about this is you look at $250,000 and I'm going, not a huge dent in the Celtics salary books.
Yeah, I mean,
not a huge
it's
dent
already.
for Derek
Yeah,
White.
we already are.
It's like, hey, if anybody wanted to fund this program, $250K, like, hey, I know Boston. I know Boston. They're the Celtics. They're floating around with that extra $250K. We know about this out here. It's like, hey, push it over here.
What's $250K on top of the already not struggling, but over the salary cap Celtics? What's $250K? Not too bad. Not too bad.
I mean, I'll say this though, it does suck that he didn't get that, because you look at Derek White and what he came from and stuff like that. But at the same time, like Seamus said, it doesn't really do much. But
No.
I don't know. I don't have much to say on that.
I should know, but who did make the teams? The all defensive team. Just kind of curious.
Well,
Yeah,
this was
like a big.
So first first team all defense. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I got it.
I'll give it to you right now. Evan Mobley, Dyson Daniels, Lou Dort, and so Dyson Daniels, Lou Dort, Evan Mobley, Draymond Green, and Amin Thompson. That's your first team all defense right there. And then
Dyson
second
Daniels
team
is ridiculous.
Second team, Tumani Kamara, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson, Jalen Williams, and Ivica Zubac. Zubac. Always butcher Zubac.
Just more information for you guys.
So there's
in case you
your
weren't
first
up to
and
date on that.
second All-NBA team as well. And Derek White did not make an All-NBA team this season, unfortunately. But Derek White, he's going to be saving the Celtics some money by not meeting his $250,000 incentive. However, Derek White also in the rumor mill. Derek White, an option for the Golden State Warriors, appearing on the Zach Lowe show. Logan Murdoch said the Warriors are looking at White this offseason, citing him as the kind of high IQ two-way player who could elevate Golden State's backcourt. And this is what Murdoch said. Another guy that I think you should look at for the Warriors going forward is Derek White. I think that's something the Warriors are looking at right now. So this is more of one of those rumors that you're like, is this really a rumor? Like the Warriors are looking at him, or is this somebody really just suggesting that it's like, I would look at this player. I think that's one of the more let's give this out for the NBA fan base. Watch out for all the rumors and the nonsense that are people saying could happen. Is anything could happen. I
mean, anyone would want Derek White.
Yeah.
Like could. Yeah. The Celtics could trade Jason Tatum to the Jazz for John Collins, but why would they do like there's too much if somebody's saying could do this, it's like anything could happen. It's not a rumor. It's not somebody saying
you also have to think about the value of, say, a Derek White. It's like what do the Warriors have to offer? You know what I mean? It's like it's just throwing around could. Obviously, any team would want Derek White. You know what I mean? Like it's a no-brainer, right?
There's not too much substance to that.
What would I did see something about like a Kuminga somehow coming on. I'm not agree. I'm not saying. I just saw that rumor.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
You go, Griffin.
I think honestly this, and I don't know if this is completely true, but I think you have Jaylen Brown and Derek White, your two untouchables this offseason. I think, and Peyton Pritchard. I think we could solidify those three. Yeah, but Tatum, they're not.
I'm kidding. No, I know.
We'll say those four. I think those four. Anyone else is free game, but like those four are stuck. I think you could essentially say, because I just don't see them. I don't see Boston moving from them because that's like the core on what you need. But anyone else, send trades our way and we'll look at them, I guess. But those four I think are safe.
Yeah, I would pinpoint. I was talking earlier. The five is Tatum, Brown, White, Pritchard, and Shireman. Those are
Shireman,
the safest five. No, because Shireman, I think he's going to be important because he showed us at the end last year that there's something to his game. Like, oh, this is something. Like, there's something going on here. And I just think he's a cheaper version of what you could, what Sam Hauser was within the rotation where he slotted in. Baylor Shireman could be a cheaper version of that. And it's not to say he's going to be the same exact player as Shireman. It's more of just he's going to be able to produce at the same level as Hauser. Shireman is going. I think I just mixed up the names here.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I was like, Shireman is going to make up for the production of Sam Hauser. It's not to say Shireman will be the same player as Sam Hauser, but I think that Shireman could replace a lot of his production within the rotation,
and his ceiling
for $8 million less, right? And
I think Shireman's ceiling too is like it's obviously a little higher than Hauser. Like I think Hauser's kind of not at his not. I mean, he like that's another thing that I not failed to mention, but didn't have an opportunity to like with say like the Celtics not changing their roster from the past season, be like that led to their detriment. It's like guys like Hauser or these role players. It's like you have to understand there's only so much like kind of so much you're gonna get from them. You know what I mean? They're not. It's when you have a good season that prior year, especially like a role player. It's like there's gonna be a potential decline. Like, are they gonna come back the same player they were and have that same level of impact? So it's like having a guy like Sharman who has that ceiling, who can kind of shift and potentially change, gives the Celtics an opportunity to really like morph into a different team, have a different outlook, and have a different look for teams to face.
And can I add on to that point too? I think,
Yeah.
well, realistically, I think having a bridge year next year for the Boston Celtics, I feel like you're gonna see. I think this is more so the route. I think you're gonna see a lot of, I'm trying to look for the word. A lot of different schemes. You're gonna see a lot of different options. Like, I mean, JD Davison just signed a 2-year contract with
Yeah.
Boston Celtics. Baylor Shireman. You're gonna see these guys develop and really get an opportunity in the NBA, because we've seen JD Davison in the G League for so long, and he's never got acclimated to that role off the bench. He's going to have to get acclimated off of that role this year, because, I think the biggest struggle with JD Davison is he's been in the G League for 3 years, and he's been so used to being that number one option. He hasn't got an opportunity to see a bench role in the Boston Celtics. But I look at this too. This is kind of, and Shireman, I think he's built for that. I think the main Celtics, what they did so greatly with Baylor Shireman is they had him come off the bench to start off the year. And I think that was such a great tool to do with Baylor Shireman, because he's used to that. He knows what route he's going to come from. He knows he's, if anything, at the most, he'll be a 6-man for a squad or the Boston Celtics later in his career. I think that's kind of the route you see Baylor Shireman going in. And he's fine with that. And the Maine Celtics developed him in that kind of way. You didn't really see him getting a starting spot with the Maine Celtics till later in the season. But I do have to do a little plug. You talked about O'Shea Brissett earlier, and I'm talking about Baylor Shireman. Go check out Celtics Nation Rise. Go to Shorts on YouTube, or go to the Instagram. Check out the Reels. We got an interview with O'Shea Brissett and Baylor Shireman, so go check those out. I had to do the little plugs really quick, like we were talking about, Seamus.
Yeah.
Of course.
Good call. Good call.
Always have to do it. Go check it out though. Good interviews. Like they are down to earth people, and I think the one with Brissett, we are kind of more chit chatting about food in Boston, because I think I already said this on a podcast, but the first time he had to go, and he was like, I was like, "What's your favorite part about Boston?" He's like, "The food," and I was kind of bummed out, because I'm like, "Oh, not the fans or anything," but the next time he gave me a detailed answer, and then at the end I was like, okay, we talked about food. What's your favorite food in Boston? He loved that one. He was all in on the food.
What was the answer? Do you remember the answer?
He gave me 3. I don't remember.
Where'd he say? Yeah, where'd he say? Because I'm actually going in tomorrow, or today actually.
Strega, or what? However you say it.
Well,
I don't know.
It might be out of my budget.
How about
though.
this? Everyone go check it out. Go check it out, because then you'll know, because you don't want to hear some false information from me with my own content. But yeah, Andrew, we're going to do the trailer tomorrow. Maybe we got to hit up one of those places. Use those.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get a little appetizer or something though.
I know
it's too far out the budget. I don't know where O'Shea's going.
Yeah, those might be some fancy places. They sound, just the names he was hitting me with. Hold on, let me try to get the audio in here.
Strega, Strega is.
Strega,
nice
because I was like, some of the names he's hitting me with, I think that might be out of the price range, but it was food that he liked. The first time he had what was it? A Jersey Mike sub in there, so that might be a little more in our.
There you go. I'll go to Jersey Mike's. That's okay.
But he didn't hit me with Jersey Mike's. He was like Strega. Hold on, well I'm pulling up the audio. Hold on, we'll get the audio in here in a second. All right. I think we have the audio. All right. Yeah, we got the audio.
What was your favorite place to get food in Boston?
Zuma,
Aria,
Strega. So Zuma, Aria, and Strega. Those are the places.
Sorry, that just sounds elitist right there. Like I like seriously, those 3 names. It's like,
yeah.
Are those street corner names? Are
maybe
those
one day?
Are those names
maybe
you
one
find?
day. One day.
Are those Are those names you find like, oh,
Hey,
like there are little holes in the
keep
wall? It's
watching.
like,
Keep
no,
watching
those
us.
are fancy places.
Keep watching us and help us out.
Yeah, I know. We'll make when. All right, listen. When the money's rolling in, we'll do a
SeatGeek,
O-shaper
folks.
set.
SeatGeek.
SeatGeek, check it out. Yeah. But
SeatGeek,
like
exactly.
yeah, like you were saying though, once the money's rolling in, maybe we'll have to make a vlog going to each of O-shaper sets, top recommended places, and we'll recommend it for you guys because he might have a little more expensive taste. My taste is a little like less in that category, so I could give you like a good
Are you a
honest.
big lobster fan up there?
Well, I am a big lobster. I tell you what, I'm a big steak guy though. I hope they have some steak there, but those sound like
Don't worry,
Griffin
they
turd.
will, Griffin. Don't worry.
yeah,
Griffin, they
no,
will.
but back to that. I love the answer he gave me the second time. It was I was a little hurt at first, but he definitely made up for it with that second interview. And Baylor Shireman, it's actually so unfortunate. I don't know if I've told this story on here, but this is time for story time because off season, it's time to have some fun. You guys are here for the fun podcast, and that's what we're gonna give you. But for Baylor Shireman, I saw him and I was like, no way. Like, I was like, I'm about to get a Baylor Shireman interview. That's hype. So he came over, he gave me great answers. And I asked him, I was like, I think it was who had the best drip on the team. And he was like, Drew Holiday has good drip. And he was going down. And then I ran out of storage on my phone and I was like, no. But it worked out because I got a Frank Kaminsky interview after. I got that
Frank
like
the
right
Tank.
after. So yeah, Frank the Tank. Seamus and I forget what episode it was, but go check it out. Seamus was talking about the Frank Kaminsky edit, but it worked out. Yeah, Frank. But Shireman gave me such good answers, and I think the thing is like I love how professional they were, but there's a lot. I want to do like later in the season. I want to do tier lists, and I want to give you guys a tier list of them. But go check them out. It's a lot of, like I said, we prioritize on Celtics here, but once the main Celtics season rolls around, Andrew and I are going to be working hard there to get as much main Celtics
Potentially
content
get some media. Yep.
Yeah.
Potentially some outdoor interviews with the fans, and we can even ask, so stay tuned for that.
Exactly. And it's a fun environment because, I think you look at the G League and it's just going to be up from here. I mean, you look at that, yeah. But Mac McClung, he was one we got in. We got, just go check them out. Go check them out. They're a lot of fun. To make it easier too, if you guys just wanted to, I made what's it called, the playlist. So go just to interviews, and you guys will see all the interviews. They'll pop up right there. But yeah, another plug I gotta do really quick. Oh, Seamus, you were about to say something.
Yeah. Any other rumors or?
Yeah, just one more here. Just one more. Torrey
good.
Craig. Torrey Craig, this is a player who I have been speculative on will probably not return to Boston just because of the production of Torrey Craig and where the Celtics roster sits right now. I think it's likely if the Celtics add another player via a minimum salary over the offseason, a veteran minimum, I don't think it's going to be Torrey Craig. I think it's probably going to be another name out there. And under those circumstances, I see the Celtics maybe going a little bit younger. The whole reason the Celtics had Torrey Craig was from the buyout situation this past season with the Chicago Bulls and the Celtics just adding another name on the market when they could have, when they had the chance to. So Torrey Craig probably not on the team next season. However, Torrey Craig did say this. And another slide here, courtesy of Hoops Hype. If the opportunity presented itself, Craig would love to be back in Boston. He told Celtics blog after the Celtics playoff elimination earlier this month. I love everything about Boston, Craig said. If it was available, then I would see myself coming back. Craig said that the opportunity to be part of a championship caliber team is one he'll always cherish. Just being around the guys that previously won the championship, just seeing how they operate, how together they were, just being a part of the Celtics culture, that was a cool experience for me. And that was from Torrey Craig's mouth himself.
Can I say?
So, yeah, go ahead, Griffin.
We gotta honor the fit.
Drip,
we gotta honor the fit. You gotta honor the amazing Torrey Craig.
And I have another nice tidbit to throw in here. This one is not going to be about Torrey Craig, but I think it's going to be something that everybody here can enjoy. And let's see if I can pull it up. Having some trouble pulling it up here, real quick. Sorry, guys.
All good.
Should have it here in a moment. As we know, Celtics Nation Rise. This is where we start adding in the production here to the program. We have a lot of experience at the end of the season in adding to the program on the fly here as
Yeah,
we get this.
But while
Hey,
you're
let
doing-
us know down below if Celtics Nation Rise should hold a lookalike contest versus one of
Ooh,
the players. Let us know.
because we got fake Jaylen Brown coming on in the fan series, so
Right. Let us
I
know.
think if you guys we got it. Oh, here we go. This is
Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank. What
Frank the Tank. This is 10 years ago. 10 years
Wow.
ago, 2015 March Madness. A whole 10 years ago. First of all, I can't believe it's been 10 years since Frank the Tank Kaminsky was at Wisconsin.
Yeah, that is wild.
Going to the Final Four. I mean, look at this cover. Shout out to Sports Illustrated. This
Yeah,
was the
good stuff.
prime of Sports Illustrated. Maybe the prime of Sports Illustrated was actually before this, but hey, they were still putting out
That's
good
still
stuff
pretty
in
good stuff.
2015. Like these are the type of covers that we miss. You know, the digitalized universe. We're all digital now. You know,
Yeah.
people still order magazines. They still get their memorabilia and whatnot, but at the same time, it's not as widely popular as it used to be. Everything is digitalized. We see a lot of our news online. People don't really order magazines as much anymore. Yet when Sports Illustrated, when they were on their cover game, I mean, it was legit. It was legit. And you still have, Sports Illustrated, I'm sure they're still doing some all right work out there. But 10 years ago, Frank the Tank
The
with the tank,
detail,
the
quality.
tank sitting behind him. And I'll say this too.
Go
Anytime,
check
I
out
believe
the
it was the from a baseball perspective, anytime Sports Illustrated pinned your team as the most likely to win the World Series at the beginning of the season, it was just like, nope, not happening. It's like
Yep,
Sports
another
Illustrated was just
Madden.
it would just be if your team was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, it's almost like it really is
A
almost like the
Madden
Madden cover where
of magazines.
the
straight
Madden.
up
Info.
it was the Madden curse of magazines because anytime it was I believe it was with baseball. Anytime, particular like the Cardinals, right? Because the Cardinals, 10 years ago, 10 now it's been 10 years plus, but the Cardinals were a legit baseball team, believe it or not, 10 years ago, and they were deemed the favorites, and it's never happening when your team is on the front of Sports Illustrated. It's just never happening. I wish Sports Illustrated covers were as mainstream and talked about as they used to be, but yeah, the little flashback into the past, 10 years ago, Frank the Tank on Wisconsin. Had to bring that up because anytime he's coming up in conversation, gotta respect Frank the Tank because
To the Frank the Tank.
he's one of my probably most favorite college basketball players of all time. Obviously didn't really he made himself an all right NBA career. Charlotte and Phoenix, a little bit in Sacramento. Obviously didn't live up to all of his NBA potential, but did carve himself out a little bit of an NBA career. Was on that Phoenix Suns team that made the NBA Finals. And hey, 10 years later, it's like you look back, I'm just glad we had the moments to enjoy Frank Kaminsky while he
Frank
actually
Kaminsky.
gave us some pretty good basketball, particularly at Wisconsin when they made the Final Four 2 years in a row. And I always like bringing up good basketball lore. I'll say that. Good, just any day. Like I could sit here and talk about. It's like, what random? I always bring up Xavier Henry. Right? It's like, remember that Xavier Henry dunk back in 2014, folks? It's like, yeah, I could probably not, but I'll bring it up because the lore, the basketball conversation. It's like it can go on for literally days, hours, weeks. It's like stuff like that, like Xavier Henry, that dunk back in 2014. We'll have to bring that up next program.
We will. But I think that's going to do it with the show. So again, I just wanted to say for everyone watching, make sure that you guys comment down below if you want to make an appearance on our fan podcast. I feel like we're going to start getting a lot more requests. So really tell me your story. Like, give it a good story. I've heard already some great stories. So I would love to hear your guys' stories. We're still in the making of what we can do with it. So let me know down below your stories and why you want to join our fan series. But that's going to do it with the show. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on those post notifications, because again, it's going to be a lot of random episodes. We're not going to be we're going to look for it next Wednesday again, but it's going to be a lot more, give or take with our episodes, because this off season, there's going to be a lot of breaking news and stuff. So make sure you turn on those post notifications to be notified when we do post. But that is going to do it with the show. Make sure again to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next week on Wednesday for the next one. If any other breaking news comes up or the fan series starts, stay tuned for that. But we will see you guys with the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Peace, guys.